Christmas morning didn't feel like Christmas at all. No wrapping paper, no sound of carols, no family chatter in the background, just the dull hum of the radiator and the white silence outside my apartment window. The snow had fallen through the night, thick and clean, covering every car along the street like it wanted to erase the world. I was curled on the couch, half thinking about calling my mother, half dreading the voice that would answer. Then my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a text from Grandma. The words were short, sharp, without her usual warmth. "Don't go home. Trust me. Stay away." I read it 3 times, each slower than the last. Grandma never wrote like that. She still signed her texts with her name as if I didn't know who they were from. And she never warned without reason. My stomach tightened. For a second, I considered replying, asking what she meant. But my thumb hovered over the keyboard and stopped. If she wanted me to know more, she would have told me. She had lived her whole life measured, careful, not a single wasted word. If she said don't, then I wouldn't. The contrast was jarring because for a week straight, my phone had been lighting up with calls and messages from my parents, my siblings, even cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. They wanted me home, insisted on it. Every text carried the same promise, a big surprise. My mother's tone had grown sweet to the point of being sticky, my father's clipped commands dressed up as invitations, my brother's fake cheer layered with pressure. I knew their patterns too well. The sudden affection only ever meant they needed me to do something for them. But this time, they had been relentless. Now, with one short message, Grandma had cut through all their noise. I set the phone down, trying to breathe evenly, but my chest still felt tight. For the first time that morning, I noticed the quiet of my apartment wasn't peaceful. It was thick, like waiting for something to crack. Outside, the snow kept falling, untouched, as if the whole city had gone into hiding. Hours dragged. I tried to distract myself, flipping through channels, making tea, staring at the tree I hadn't decorated. By late afternoon, the silence broke. A distant wail of sirens sliced through the air. Then more, overlapping, rising, closing in. I stood by the window, clutching the edge of the curtain, and watched as streaks of red and blue lights danced against the snow. The sound grew louder, then steadied somewhere not far away. I turned on the local news, half expecting to see another storm warning. Instead, the headline rolled across the bottom of the screen. FBI raid in suburban neighborhood. Multiple arrests. I leaned closer, my breath fogging the glass of the screen. The camera showed a street I knew too well. My street. My parents' house. Black SUVs lined the curb, their doors thrown open. Agents in dark coats fanned across the yard, some with files, others with weapons slung low. Flashing lights bounced off the snow, turning the scene into a stuttering nightmare of color. Then the front door burst open. One by one, my family came out. My father first, his hands cuffed behind his back, jaw tight with fury. My mother next, hair wild, shouting words I couldn't hear. Then my brother, my sister, even the cousins who had texted me about the surprise. All of them pulled into the cold, lined up like pieces in a puzzle no one wanted to see completed. The reporter's voice cut in, cool and rehearsed. Charges include fraud, tax evasion, and stolen identities. The investigation has been ongoing for months. Authorities confirm the family attempted to recruit another relative into their scheme before the raid. My stomach lurched. I didn't need the reporter to say who that relative was. The phone lit up again on the table.
Grandma.
This time she didn't write anything cryptic. She just said, "Come tomorrow. I'll explain everything." I stared at those words until the screen dimmed. My whole body felt locked between relief and nausea. Relief that I had listened to her, that I wasn't standing in that yard with cuffs cutting into my wrists. Nausea at the thought that my parents, my own blood, had tried to pull me into it all. That their surprise had been a trap. The night stretched long, restless. I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the flashing lights, the agents circling like wolves, my family lined up in disgrace. When dawn finally broke, pale and brittle, I drove to Grandma's house. Her street was quiet, the snow here undisturbed, as if the chaos hadn't reached her. She opened the door before I knocked, her face stern but soft at the edges. Without a word, she led me inside, her step steady, the air faint with pine. At the kitchen table, she slid an envelope toward me. It was thick, heavy, the paper worn at the edges as if it had been handled too many times. I opened it with shaking fingers. Inside were documents, wills, property deeds, financial statements. My name was written across them, clear as daylight. I was her heir. She watched me closely, her voice low but steady when she spoke. They wanted you to sign their papers. If you had, you'd be tied to their crimes. They'd walk free, and you'd carry the weight. The room tilted. I looked down at the stack again, my eyes catching on my parents' scribbled notes in the margins, plans that had no space for me except as their shield. Grandma reached across the table, resting her hand lightly over mine. I couldn't let that happen. You needed to know the truth. I nodded, unable to form words. The papers were more than proof. They were a mirror showing me what my family truly was, a network of lies, each branch reaching for me only to pull me under. The word family felt foreign. Something I had grown up believing was unshakable had shattered in a single day. And I realized, sitting in Grandma's kitchen with the envelope heavy in my hands, that she wasn't just saving me. She was forcing me to see what I had been refusing to admit all along. I had never really belonged to them. The morning after the raid, Grandma's kitchen felt like a bunker. The walls were lined with photographs of people who were now locked in holding cells, their smiles frozen in time. I sat across from her, the envelope still heavy in front of me, my name stamped over every page like a mark I hadn't asked for. She didn't pour coffee or make small talk. She simply studied me, waiting for the shock to settle into something steady. You're wondering why, she said finally, her voice calm. Why they wanted you home. Why they pushed so hard. I didn't answer. My throat was tight, but I nodded. They knew about the estate. They knew I'd changed everything last year. Your name is on all of it, the house, the land, the accounts. They couldn't stand the thought of it being yours. So they came up with their plan. If they got you to sign their papers, the FBI would tie you to them. You'd take the fall. Once you were buried in charges, they'd fight in court for control over what was meant for you. Her words landed like stones. My parents hadn't just lied. They had calculated every call, every message, every fake smile part of a blueprint to strip me bare. Grandma opened a drawer and pulled out another folder. She slid it toward me. Inside were copies of police reports, letters, and a timeline scribbled in her handwriting. I've been watching them for years, she said. They've been hiding more than fraud. You only saw one part of it on the news. What the FBI didn't say is how far it really goes. They've been using other people's identities for nearly a decade. Bank accounts, medical records, even passports. Every time I got close to telling you, they'd show up pretending to make peace, distracting you. They needed you to stay blind. I flipped through the folder, my stomach turning with every page. Dates lined up with memories I hadn't questioned at the time. Vacations that didn't make sense, sudden bursts of money, unexplained moves. And you knew all this? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. She didn't flinch. I did. And I waited until I could protect you. Now I can. Before I could ask more, a knock rattled the front door. Grandma's eyes shifted, calm but alert. She motioned for me to stay seated and walked slowly to open it. Two men stood on the porch, both in dark coats, both flashing badges. Ma'am, we need to speak with your granddaughter, the taller one said. His tone wasn't a request. I froze. The FBI. They stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, their boots leaving streaks on the polished floor. One of them placed a folder on the table in front of me. You didn't come home yesterday, he said, his eyes fixed on me. That was the right decision. But we still need to hear your side. Grandma stayed close, her presence like a shield. The agent opened the folder, revealing photographs. My parents at banks, my brother signing papers under someone else's name, my mother meeting with strangers in parking lots. Then, at the end of the stack, a photo of me. Not recent, but from last year, at a family barbecue, holding a plate of food, smiling, unaware. They've been preparing to tie you in for a long time, he said. Your name has already been linked to certain accounts. We think they were trying to set you up as their front. If you hadn't stayed away, you'd be sitting in custody right now. The words twisted my stomach. My family hadn't just wanted me to sign papers. They had already started planting evidence. We'll need you to testify, the second agent added. We'll need everything you know. Grandma's hand touched my shoulder, steadying me. She looked at them with a firmness I hadn't seen before. She'll cooperate, but only if you guarantee her safety. No contact with the family. No loopholes. The agents exchanged a glance, then nodded. They handed me a card with their numbers and left as quickly as they came. The silence they left behind was heavier than before. Grandma sat again, her eyes on me. You understand now why I warned you. You weren't just a target. You were the key to all of it. I didn't know how to respond. My mind replayed every phone call from the week before, every "we miss you" that was nothing more than bait. My parents had always been demanding, but I never imagined they would go so far as to build their freedom on my destruction. That night, I stayed at Grandma's. The house was quiet, the air heavy with the scent of pine and old wood. I lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, replaying the raid in my mind. The flashing lights, the neighbors watching, my family's faces twisted in shock. But beneath all of that was a darker thought. If Grandma hadn't warned me, if I had gone home, I wouldn't be here. The next morning, she placed another envelope in front of me. This one thinner, but sealed. What's this? I asked. Something you'll need when the time comes, she said. But not yet. Open it when you're ready. It answers the question you haven't asked me. I frowned, my fingers itching to tear it open, but her expression stopped me. She wanted me to wait. Before I could press further, the phone rang. Grandma answered, her tone sharp. After a moment, she handed it to me. This is Agent Collins, a voice said. We need you at the federal building tomorrow morning. There are things only you can clarify. The line clicked dead. I set the phone down, my pulse quickening. Tomorrow I'd be walking into a room where every detail of my family's betrayal would be laid out. Tomorrow I'd have to face what they had tried to make of me. Grandma's eyes lingered on me. This isn't over. Not for them. And not for you. Be ready. The room seemed to shrink around me. I thought of the sealed envelope, the documents in my name, the photo of me already in their files. My family might be behind bars, but their shadow was still reaching. And as I sat there, the truth sank in deeper. The raid was only the beginning. The morning of the federal meeting arrived colder than the days before. I sat in the back seat of a black government sedan, silent, staring out at streets glazed with ice. The agent driving didn't make conversation, his focus locked on the road. My palms stayed damp the whole ride, every turn pulling me closer to a confrontation I couldn't avoid. Inside the federal building, I was led to a conference room. Bright lights, white walls, a long table stacked with files. 2 agents waited there, Collins and another woman who introduced herself as Agent Ramirez. They didn't waste time. Your family has already started negotiations, Ramirez said. They're offering names, contacts, financial accounts. But there's a problem. They've also tried to push responsibility onto you. They've claimed you were part of it. I felt my stomach twist. They're lying. Collins leaned forward, sliding a folder toward me. We know. But lies become dangerous when they're repeated. You need to help us close this. They questioned me for hours. Every phone call, every trip, every unexplained gathering I remembered was dissected. I answered with precision, forcing myself to relive conversations that now sounded like rehearsed traps. When it was over, they told me I'd likely be subpoenaed to testify in court. My family's defense hinged on tying me to them. If I stood silent, their narrative might stick. As I left the building, my thoughts returned to the sealed envelope Grandma had given me. I hadn't opened it yet. The timing felt deliberate, as if she had known this moment was coming. That night, back at her house, I sat alone in the guest room, staring at the envelope resting on the desk. My fingers shook as I tore it open. Inside was a letter. The handwriting was hers, steady but firm. "You're stronger than you think," it began. "But there's something you don't know. Your parents were never meant to inherit anything from me. I changed my will after discovering what they'd done years ago. They forged documents to take what belonged to others, but they also tried to take from you before you were old enough to fight back. When you were 12, they attempted to transfer property into your name without telling you. It failed only because I intervened. I never told you because I wanted you to grow without carrying that burden. Now you need to understand. They've been planning to use you since you were a child." The words cut deeper than anything I had heard in the federal building. This hadn't started with last week's surprise. It had been my family's long game. Every smile, every sudden kindness, every holiday invitation had been part of a design to keep me within reach. The letter ended with a single line. "You are not their victim. You are my heir. Protect what is yours." I folded the paper, my chest heavy, and carried it to Grandma. She was in the living room, the glow of the fireplace flickering across her face. I handed her the letter. She didn't react, only nodded slowly. "I gave that to you now," she said, "because you needed to stop doubting. They've been shaping your whole life for their use. Now they'll have to face you instead." The trial came 2 months later. The courtroom was crowded, the air thick with tension. My parents sat across the aisle in orange uniforms, their faces sharp with contempt. My brother and sister avoided my eyes, their expressions empty. I was called to the stand, the weight of every eye pressing down. The prosecutor asked me about the week before Christmas, about the messages, about the pressure to come home. I told the truth, every detail precise. Then came the defense. My father's attorney tried to paint me as complicit, showing copies of bank accounts with my name attached. The sight of them sent a cold shiver through me. But then the prosecutor produced Grandma's files, the timelines, the notes, the documents showing how my name had been used without consent. And finally, the letter. The courtroom shifted when it was read aloud, Grandma's words carrying more weight than any attorney's argument. My parents' composure cracked. My mother shouted across the room, claiming forgery. My father's jaw clenched, so tight, I thought his teeth might break. The judge silenced them, reminding them they had chosen their own path. In the end, the verdict was decisive. Guilty. All counts. My parents were sentenced to years in federal prison, my brother and sister too. The cousins, the ones who had played smaller roles, received lighter terms but still faced consequences. The family that had once filled every corner of my life was dismantled in one ruling. When it was over, I walked out of the courthouse with Grandma at my side. Reporters shouted questions, cameras flashed, microphones shoved forward. But I kept walking. I had nothing left to say to the world about them. Back at her house, the quiet felt different. Not heavy, not suffocating, just still. "You understand now," Grandma said softly. "Family isn't about blood. It's about who protects you when the storm comes. The rest is noise." I looked at her, the one person who had never wavered, the one who had stepped into the storm before it reached me. She had saved me, not just from prison, but from living a life tied to people who never saw me as anything more than their shield. That night, I packed my things. I wasn't returning to my old apartment. Grandma handed me a set of keys, to her house, to the land, to everything she had worked for. "It's yours now," she said simply. The snow began again outside, drifting past the windows in quiet sheets. For the first time in months, I felt the tension in my chest loosen. The raid, the trial, the betrayals, they had all brought me here, to this moment where I finally understood. My family had lost everything they tried to steal. I had gained the one truth they couldn't touch.